According to the family tree, Finkel was born in 1878 and died in 33, so she was only 55 years old when she died. If she had not had cancer, my grandmother might have lived a long time and I would remember her better. The family genes for longevity are good. All grandmother's children lived to old age, my mother and her sisters into their 90s. The brothers were also in their 80s. All of them remained mentally sharp until their death, which I think is something that we can look forward to. I think we've got good genes. Okay, Sam and Joe were studying, and it must have required intense dedication on their part because I don't remember being upset. I can forgive them for being hermits. Selma recalls that Joe was already married to Tess, and they lived in the attic, but I don't remember ever seeing her. What I do remember very clearly is that one of the uncles would throw down a dime wrapped in a piece of newspaper, and Selma and I would run to the corner and we'd buy a package of winged cigarettes, which were the cheap smokes of the day. And who took the cigarettes up to them? Not me. I don't ever remember seeing them. Finka died in 1933, and Joe and Sam moved away to pursue their separate lives, and I don't remember ever seeing Joe again, though my father once visited him when my father was traveling. And as I said, he was the dean of a college, perhaps in Arkansas. And later, Sam and Frida and their daughter Frances, who had been living in Chicago, moved back to St. Louis and renewed our relationship. He was the director of the Jewish Children's Home in St. Louis for many years before they moved to Massachusetts, and I think the geriatrics was his specialty there. And Esther lived with us for several years till she got married and moved to St. Paul. And later she moved back to St. Louis with her children and was in the janitorial supply business. Esther used to buy me presents that we couldn't afford otherwise. Little locket, I had a bracelet with my name. If I would eye something, Esther would buy it for me. Esther is Claire Hyman's mother, and I have very fond memories of her. Growing up, we saw a lot of Fanny, Annie, Charlie, and the cousins. Annie's husband, Julius, was in the junk business. Now, that's Eric Davis's father. And Fanny and Jake had a series of ladies' stores, boutiques. Vacation for Selma and me was to spend a few days at Fanny's house, where she served us cherries steeped in brandy. There was always a plate of them out on the table, and we would get giddy. We loved going there because Cousin Lil had an enormous oak dresser that was covered with cosmetics and jewelry that we weren't allowed to touch, but we liked to look at it. Okay, the attraction at Kaya's house was a player piano in the parlor that we were told not to touch, and a large desk in the kitchen with a big Underwood typewriter we were also told not to touch. My folks bought a 1932 Chevy in 1934. They both learned to drive, but my dad had an affinity with fire plugs and lampposts. So my mom became the family driver. Not too many moms drove at that time. Daddy worked as a foreman at a fur and hide company and went to bed early. So Mom would load us in the machine, as she called it, and take us to visit the aunts in the evening. On hot, leggy nights, she took us to Forest Park, where we lay on the blankets by a fountain and chased fireflies and let the mosquitoes eat us up. We were always going somewhere. My mother was very modern and independent for her time. In the next generation, the family scattered. Norm and I married and moved away to Dayton, Ohio, then to St. Louis, then to Philadelphia, and 1962 to California, which had been the destination all along. By this time, my dad had died. Wherever we moved, Mom loved to visit. She loved going anywhere. In 1964, Selma and her family and Mom, as well as Norm's parents, joined us in California, where we all settled, and we were family again. We thought that Southern California, where the living was good, would be the end of the line for our family. But our children thought differently. Selma's son Barry became an officer in the Air Force and moved to Turkey and Morocco and points in the U.S., but never again in California. My girls went away to college and settled in Northern California. Gary, now reinvented as Gershom, moved to Israel, and Selma and Alf eventually moved to Palm Desert. So we've been very, very scattered. The only one left in the valley is my sister's son, Neil.